In this masterclass, we're looking at different approaches to sibilance, including using and understanding de-essers, applying manual level correction, and also the interaction between sibilance and reverb. Often when you first hear a vocal, the sibilance is not that obvious. However, once you start compressing it or boosting high frequencies to add air and sheen, the sibilance gets magnified and becomes a problem. If we don't address it at the mixing stage, it can be very hard to reduce transparently during mastering. Before we get started de-essing, it's important to appreciate what we're dealing with and be able to identify the relevant audio. Sibilant sounds often fall at the beginning and end of words and are primarily produced by the letter S, hence the terminology, but can also be created by T's and to some degree F, sh and ch sounds. They are bursts of high frequencies, and if you zoom in on the clip, are usually easy to spot as they feature a region with a tight high frequency waveform. Let's start with a traditional de-esser plugin. There are no rules about where you place the de-esser. Position it before compression and EQ and you can set it and forget it. However, EQ and compression can enhance the sibilance, so placing it after those can also be wise, with the proviso that the settings may need tweaking later. Familiarise yourself with the key aspects of your plugin, such as the threshold, the sidechain listen option, frequency selector and sidechain bandwidth. To get started, find an area of sibilant audio and select the sidechain listen option. Use the frequency control to find the area you want to process. For us, this is about 9 kHz, but keep an open mind as frequencies are performer specific. De-essers often include control of the sidechain bandwidth. On our plugin, we can choose both high pass and band pass modes and adjust the band pass width. Adjust this option to see how it affects the frequencies that will be de-essed. Finally, exit the sidechain listen mode and adjust the threshold to taste. Be prepared to fine-tune the frequency and bandwidth settings to achieve the desired outcome. Although they are level dependent, de-essers offer a blanket response that can be tricky to finesse. A more precise technique is manual level adjustment. As mentioned, the frequencies are easy to spot on the waveform. Here we've marked out an area to resolve. If your DAW supports clip-specific gain adjustment, then it's easy to quickly adjust the level of just the sibilance. What's more, this adjustment is non-destructive, so if you need to tweak things later you can. If your DAW doesn't have non-destructive clip gain, you can still use this technique, it just means you'll have to make changes to the original audio file. Of course, this process can be pretty painstaking, particularly if you have multiple vocals to process, and certainly for backing vocals and double tracks, you may make marginal gains. Often the best option is to use manual level changes to correct the worst sibilance, using a regular de-esser plugin to curtail less offending examples.
You think you can get in my space, but you can't make that decision. You know it's up to me. This time I'm in control, doing what
Finally, sibilance can sometimes cause problems when we add reverb. There are various ways we can address this, including choosing a different reverb, filtering the tail of the reverb within the plugin, or simply by inserting an EQ after the reverb and filtering the high frequencies, and it's worth trying these options first. However, if you're adding reverb using an auxiliary, one option is to de-ess the input signal to your reverb.
You think you can get in my space, but you can't make that decision. You know it's up to me.
Simply insert a de-esser before the reverb plugin and adjust it to taste.
You think you can get in my space, but you can't make that decision. You know it's up to me.